William,
Brittany,
Caitlin,
Morgan,
Leanna,
Savannah,
Kari,
Sheila,
Dolores.
According to HuffingtonPost.com, the remains of a World War II Marine that was killed by a sniper in battle in 1943 were found and positively identified. The veteran's remains were recently returned to Knoxville, Tennessee, where he was buried with his parents 72 years after his death. Alexander Sandy Bonnyman's remains were properly returned to his family decades after his years of service to the United States Marines and his unfortunate death. Today I will tell you about Bonnyman's early life and military career, his death, and his identification and burial. Alexander Sandy Bonnyman was born in Atlanta, Georgia on May 2, 1910. He attended J.A. Thaxton School in Knoxville and graduated from Newman School in Lakewood, New Jersey, before he attended Princeton University. Bonnyman played football on Princeton's team until he left the school in 1930. After leaving Princeton, he went on to work in his father's copper mine before acquiring his own mine in Mexico. He enlisted in the Army Air Corps as a flying cadet in 1932 and was then sent to the pre-flight school at Randolph Field in Texas. In July of 1942, Sandy enlisted in the Marines, and on September 1, 1943, he was promoted to first lieutenant. According to the United States Marine Corps History Division, Bonnyman landed on the Pacific island of Tarawa on D-Day, November 20, 1943. The Marines, led by Bonnyman, were making advances on the Japanese at Tarawa. On the second day of the battle, First Lieutenant Bonnyman led his demolitions team in an assault on the entrance of a huge bomb-proof shelter which was housing approximately 150 Japanese soldiers. This group of soldiers was the main obstacle holding back the Marines' advance. When the Marines were about 40 yards from the enemy's cave, Bonnyman removed his team to attack, killing many of the Japanese soldiers who were defending the shelter. On the third and last day of the Battle of Tarawa, First Lieutenant Bonnyman and his team attacked the shelter again. It was during this attack that Bonnyman was fatally wounded and later died from his injuries. Finally, his remains weren't found until 2015 by a non-profit organization called History Flight that looks for missing soldiers and servicemen. Lieutenant Bonnyman was among 36 unidentified servicemen that History Flight found in Tarawa. Using dental records and other evidence, according to StudentNewsDaily.com, Bonnyman was positively identified by the Department of Defense Prisoners of War Missing in Action Accounting Agency. Once his remains were found and identified, they were returned to his family in Knoxville, Tennessee. After his death, First Lieutenant Alexander Bonnyman was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery in the three-day Battle of Tarawa. Today I have told you about a World War II Marine's early life and military career, his death, and his identification and burial. Alexander Sandy Bonnyman's remains were properly returned to his family decades after his years of service to the United States Marines and his unfortunate death. Fortunately, this brave Marine's remains were found nearly 72 years after his death, and he was finally able to be put to rest with all of his family members in his hometown of Knoxville, Tennessee. After all of his bravery and the sacrifices he made for the United States and its citizens, Bonnyman got what he ultimately deserved. He was reunited with his loved ones who had not seen since 1943.